Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Friday live stream. A lot of things to go over, so let's jump right in. So, as you know, the market is a little bit of a rebound. This could be yet another relief rally. This could be the start of something big or just something happened before the weekend. But prices are looking good. I think we all know this. Ethereum, Bitcoin's up, XRP, everything pretty much is up across the board over the last 24 hours. Now, if we take a look at the 7-day and 30-day, well, let's just not look at that, because everything is essentially down across the board. But I had to tell you, on X this morning, when I woke up and I saw this big, huge pump, I was like, you know what? This feels kind of strange, because what's really going on in the background? So I just put it like a tongue-in-cheek type of post where I said, this pump today doesn't feel organic. And there's a lot of good comments, like Apostrophe here says that's the whole game. Just sit and wait for them to pump the bags. Eventually it's going to happen. Can't trade the market anymore. And then, of course, Steven, the old Dave Chappelle, market makers rugging us. But across, this was like, I had a couple hundred people commenting, just pretty much saying the same thing over and over again. First of all, why are you trying to ruin it by saying it's not organic? But the majority was like, yeah, that's just how it works. There's nothing organic in crypto. There's nothing really going on in digital assets. What's really happens is that it's just random. And it's whenever the powers that be decide, as they have liquidity and they flow in or leverage. And I thought about this today, and I said, this is the reason why we dollar cost average and we just sit around. And we do essentially what Stanley Druckenmiller talks about all the time as far as long-term investors. They study, they research, and they don't do much for quite a long time. And I think that's pretty much us doing it. And this is the thing that I thought about this morning when I was thinking about selling, just to take some off the table. I'm like, I haven't sold in a little bit. Maybe I should just take some off, because, if I sell 5% of Bitcoin and maybe 10% of alts, I can just take that off the table. And I have something in the background, and I can have a little more cash on the side, or a little powder. But then I remember reading this. This was a couple weeks ago or so. Actually, no, I think about a week ago, where this is from Arkham Intelligence. They took a look at somebody 14 years ago bought 10,000 Bitcoin. And they paid, some say it was $1.78, some say it was like 69 cents or somewhere around there. But it doesn't show up as the USD on the right because it's just such a low amount. And they sold it, just last week for $1.09 billion. So I thought about it, I'm like, I think I'll just stick around. And I think that's pretty much what I'm going to do for the long haul and see how things go. Now, I think that November will be very, very turbulent, but we still have December, and, we go into Q1, something like that. But I think there's good things on the horizon if we can just get people to stop using leverage. This is from the Kobishi letter. Crypto market leverage is through the roof. Total crypto loans jumped 35% in Q3 2025 to a record $73.6 billion. This surpasses the previous record set in Q4 of 2021. Remember those days when everything was going through the roof? And it was $69.4 billion. And we just eclipsed that with leverage. I still don't understand why people love to, no. I understand why people like to gamble. I get it. But you have to, at some point, wake up and say, I'm not making it. I'm just losing money. And if you're making money, congratulations. I think you're like the 3% out there, the 1%. I have no idea. But I know that the majority of people can't be winners, and that's pretty much how it is. So I just see this as leverage as like, this is one of the problems. But regardless of that, we had some pretty great news. Now, we talked yesterday about, for the ETF inflows, it was the second worst 7-day history in the Bitcoin ETF collection. And it was awful. And we can see that IBIT, or BlackRock, was one of the biggest offenders. And look, they bought a lot, so they're going to sell a lot. It was on 29th of October, 88 million, 290 million, 149, 186. They took a break on the 4th. Thank you. And then the 5th, 375. But then yesterday, across the board, everybody, not everybody, but you had 1, 2, 3, 4 of the top ones buying, and they put in $239 million into the Bitcoin ETF. Now, people say, Rob, that's not BlackRock, that's not Fidelity, that is, of course, their clients. Yes, I get that. We've talked about this many times. But there are retail investors, there is the advisors, and there are institutional players at large hedge funds and things like that are actually buying within this ETF. So it's not like it's not BlackRock specifically, but they will and they do buy Bitcoin and put it on their balance sheet. So it's something to be aware of. I haven't looked at this yet. Let's take a look at Ethereum. How's that doing? Ooh. Well, that makes sense. 118, 38, 81, 111, 146. And then just yesterday, they put in same people. 4.9, 3.1. Who's this? And 2 shares didn't, but whatever. So you had a positive day yesterday, which was one of the worser days in the market. So just goes to show you, the big money, I don't care. I don't think it's smart money, are the one that are doubling down and they're just waiting for things to drop so they can pick things back up. And then also, this is not actually in the slides, but I forgot to put this in. JP Morgan bought over $112 million worth of shares of Tom Lee's BMNR company. So JP Morgan, and I don't think this was just recently. I think this was in the last quarter because they just had to file with the SEC, their holdings. They just bought over $100 million worth of essentially Ethereum for a digital asset treasury. Pretty crazy, right? This just came out this morning. Just forgot to put in the slides. Just one more good thing. So we have this. ETFs are looking pretty good. Also, looking like the government shutdown might end within the next 2-3 weeks. Poly market's been on a tear, looking pretty good. Now it does say November 4th through 7th. Okay, you guys lost that one. Sorry. November 8th through 11th, there's a 19% chance if you want to gamble away. November 12th to 15th, 32%. And November 16 plus, which I got to tell you, from what I've seen in the different betting markets across the board, it looks like somewhere around December 1st. So right now we're on November 7th. Is that where you're at? November 7th. So look, if we got 3 weeks of this sideways chop and some nonsense, I'll take it. Because when the government opens up, that's good news, especially for liquidity and flow. And also, it's good because of the Fed Reserve. This is James Thorne, chief marketing strategist. I think he has a PhD in economics. And he says this was a press release or a comment from the Wall Street Journal about the Federal Reserve, specifically President Williams. This is what said. The Federal Reserve, November 7th, could soon start expanding its asset portfolio again. New York Fed President John Williams hinted in a speech Friday. Fed officials voted last week to stop shrinking their $6.6 trillion asset portfolio from the start of December. And this makes sense because if you think about it, well, first of all, this is from Brett Eth. This is a great chart, really good job. What are we doing right here? Well, in the last meeting, Jerome Powell came out and said, we're going to stop quantitative tightening, right? And then if we're taking a look all the way back in August of 2019, same thing is going on. Quantitative tightening ended. It took about 7-8 months for quantitative easing to start. And at that same point, they were doing rate cuts. So when he's talking about putting things onto their balance sheet for the Fed Reserve, you know when happened that same circle right here that I'm talking about happened right here for the total assets for the Federal Reserve. And when the Federal Reserve can put assets on their balance sheet, essentially giving the economy a boost, that's when things start to go, wouldn't say parabolic, because we did have a nice little coronavirus, but it goes in the direction I think we all want it to go. So if we have that, then a little quantitative easing, a little money printing, I think we're back in business. But it's anybody's guess. And there's these factors. So we've got the government shutdown, if we can get that done. We've got quantitative tightening stopping, quantitative easing starting, Fed rate cuts, and it looks like December, it looks like it's a positive. They're going to cut 25 basis points. But also, as a reminder, all this stuff works great, but unfortunately, the dollar has to be weak. And lo and behold, I didn't know this. I was just perusing over on TradingView, as the nerds tend to do. And as far as the US dollar index, look at this. This is the strength of the dollar. Did you know that year to date, we're down 8%? So as the dollar weakens, gold, Bitcoin usually go up. But a month ago, it was at one of its lowest points. And if it would come up, the lowest point was 98.1. And what happened on October 6th? We had a Bitcoin at 126,000. Now, that doesn't mean that, of course, when it goes down to like, 98, 97, 96, that we definitely going to have an all-time high. I'm just telling you, when the dollar weakens, Bitcoin usually shoots up. And unfortunately, it's been doing some pretty strong things up until the 5th of November. And now we're down a little bit on the 7th. Will we keep going down? Anybody's guess. But this is good for us and for our bags and everything else. So that's the good stuff that's going on in the market. And then also, I know Ben was talking about this on his channel. You can go watch his video. But I found it's interesting about this, the Bitcoin bull market support band and the 50-week moving average, and how we, in red, we've actually kept that going and all the way since 2023, when Bitcoin price was, what was it? $28,000. And I'd like to buy Bitcoin back then. Anyhow, kept it pretty close right here. 2024 when Bitcoin was 54,000. And then over here, it dropped one day or closed one day at 76,000, pretty good. And then over here, now we've dropped a couple of days below this support band. So I'm not a big TA guy, but I found that interesting. Hopefully we can get closes above 101K. We'll see how that works out. And then lastly, before we get into the Q&A, NVIDIA. I found this was an interesting piece because this was actually from here. Franco said, today Bitcoin followed exactly what NVIDIA did. It's because of the algorithmic trading that big institutions make use of. NVIDIA had an important limit around blah, blah, blah. Rebound and art. Since both are risky assets, the algorithms bought the bag, which includes both. See the charts. And I'm just going to throw this out there. On Ben's site, which I like to steal from as much as possible, within reason, I can overlay Bitcoin price with the NVIDIA price. And check this out. Okay, that looks kind of goofy because we're going all the way back to 2000. Let's say something reasonable and zoom in. I got to tell you, that does look pretty close. However, you can see here that it's not perfect. Right down here in 2023, there was obviously a divergence as the Bitcoin price in blue went down, NVIDIA went up, and then they kind of met down this way. But as time has gone on, divergence here as well. But just from like 2024, it started to follow more of a pattern. And that's kind of when everybody woke up, not at that point, but later on, people woke up to the AI phenomenon and they started to buy like crazy. And that is now potentially the AI bubble. Now, it's not perfect, but I'm going to be following this a little bit closer to see if NVIDIA and Bitcoin are matching up perfectly. Anyhow, just one more thing to put into your repertoire of things to check out. And then lastly, charity. I will tell you that usually if you give something, it comes back to you, right? If everybody believes in that. I do. Tom put this out. Tommy Crown says, hey, it's crazy to think that people will go hungry for Thanksgiving this year. I'm going to go to fundraisers to help feed families. Never done this to help me out. And me and Tom talked, and he's going to do his thing. I'm going to do my thing. And the thing, it comes down to this, is that when I was a young kid, story time, I was on these things called food stamps. I think everybody knows this. We called them food stamps. We didn't call it SNAP back then. And, without that, we would have, there was nights when we didn't have it. We just went to bed. We didn't have any food. But I know how much it sucks and how awful it is. And I know the government's not going to bail us out because the government sucks. And it's on both sides. Let's just call a spade a spade. So if it's really up to us to help the people around us, because if we don't do it, who's going to do it? It's got to be us. So in that light, I've got a couple of different charities I'll be donating to. El Pasoans Fighting Hunger. And then, of course, where I live in Puerto Rico, Amigos que Alimentan. I think I said that right. And I would urge you to do a couple of things. First of all, if you'd like to donate to these guys, fantastic. There's a link in the description for both of these charities, which I will be donating to. Whatever you donate to, I will match you. So if you put $100 in, I'll put $100 in. I'll match it equal to equal. If nobody puts anything, I'm going to put my own thing in anyhow. So that's what it is. If you are like, well, I don't really want to do that. I want to do it in my area. That's great. I don't care where you donate to. Just donate. It's going to help out. And again, it's not like the government's going to come save anybody, because they're not. There's a link in the description I put in for Charity Watch. Be careful who you donate to. Some suck. Some use all the money for advertising and the board. Some use most, if not all their money for the charities that they actually represent. And you can go to Charity Watch. You can scroll down here. Let's see, where it is food. There it is, hunger and food policy. And there's a ton of them you can go through, and here's their ratings and go from that. Or you can just say, just do a Google search and just put in like church food bank or food bank in city, state, and donate to that. And that's it. And if you don't want to do that, donate to mine. Or there's a link in the description, which I will take crypto, and I will send it over to them. And that's it for today. And I'll be reminding everybody about this. That's it for today. So look, if you like today's video, give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing. What we talk about is time sensitive. Now let's get into a little Q&A. And I'd like to go over the poll that I had put on so we can go over that and go from there. Let's see. Zaza waxes. Take my donation, matching the user for your tax write-offs. Well, here's the great thing. I don't pay capital gains tax, and I pay a 6% corporate tax because I live in Puerto Rico. It's great. So if you don't want to do it, that's fine. Just don't be a jerk about it. All right. Hey, Dan, how's Rob and Bobby? Bobby's great. I mean, he's lost all his money, but nothing else you can do about it. Let's see. When is America Thanksgiving? Will Bitcoin pump afterwards? I don't think Bitcoin will pump until we get the government opened up and go from there. Trainer. Hey, Rob, good time to lump sum or just DCA? You know, some people say that it's best just to just lump sum as much as you can. And we've taken a look at that. And of course, lump sum is great when you do it in like November 18th, 2022. It's a fantastic time. Not a good time if you do it on, say, October 6th, 2025. So I will always err on the side of caution myself. Trainer, of course, it's up to you. And I just keep dollar cost averaging. Now, when we get into the risk levels and they start to go down, I put more into it. Okay. Anyhow, back to what I was trying to get to it. There we are. So I put this poll up, and I said, who thinks the crypto market is based on fundamental or hype? And 35% of you, a third, say that most of this is all fundamentals. All crypto and digital assets is fundamentals. About half of you say it's all hype, and about 17% it said it's something else. And I said for you to comment below. I'm just going to tell you what I think. The fundamentals of digital assets, there has to be something behind it, right? There has to be something good about it, or else in the long run, it will slip away. In the short run, fart coin and all the different meme coins can blow up. Obviously, there's no fundamentals there. For them to actually be around for the long haul and get in that coveted top 10 position, top 20, you have to be able to actually do something, I think. Now, there's some exceptions, but I do think there is some fundamentals. Having said that, as far as it's all hype, that is what really does move the market. It's hype, it's momentum, and it's liquidity. And it seems like, I mean, there's great things happening behind the scenes, and people are building, and, you know, God bless the devs, good for them. But for the number go up philosophy, that's really what it comes down to. And I'll give you a case in point, which is Chainlink. And I talk about this all the time. Chainlink is used by almost everybody. It's an oracle. It pulls outside data. It's essentially a layer one. They have an agreement between them and Swift for all the banks for cross-border payments. Swift, they have an agreement. Swift. And again, they're hooked into every different project that's out there. And yet it's a stagnant project. Yet we see other ones go up at the hint of somebody who knows somebody who was at a conference who heard from a guy who knows a guy, you know. So yeah, for right now, it's all hype. And that's why when you're doing these things, these are the things that actually move the market. And as far as it's something else, I'd love to know what that is. So put that in the comments right now, because that would be great. And Aman Perry is right. I'm sorry. Bitcoin is the fundamental. The rest are all hype. And it's very true. Now, it was supposed to be peer-to-peer transactions. That didn't really work out. I mean, yeah, you can say Lightning Network, and there's some things going on, but like As far as like global payments and things like that, I think stable coins are going to take that, or XRP. Stable coins, I think, are leading right now. So sue me. But as far as like digital gold and gold 2.0, yeah. And of course, it's people say it's a hedge against inflation. Not short-term inflation, I think long-term. You know, it's a long-term hedge. Because if you say, well, it's a hedge against inflation. Oh, yeah? Well, why is it down like 15%? That's not a really good hedge. Okay, you got me. What about for the last year? Aha, there it is, up 53%. So that beats inflation. So it's a long-term hedge inflation, I think. That's about it. But yeah, Amon's right. Bullish Dragon says it's a global market where all have access. That's also very true. Part of it has to do with the dollar strength. Yes. The pump, Rusty Bot. Rusty Bot says Bitcoin pumped after, within a few days, Thanksgiving, 2015, 2016, 17. It's a good run. 2020 and 2023. Yeah, 2021, I think we had just topped at like November 17th, I think it was. Or maybe that was it November 17th or November 7th? Correct me in the comments section. And let's see, Frenchie, Hoofty. And we've seen all these movies. Hello. Allowing stable coins as admittance that Bitcoin has value. Sure. Let's see. This guy says, not to bug you with stuff. That's not really your concern, but you do seem to have an inside track. I don't know if you're talking to me, this guy, or somebody in the comment section. When is iTRUST? Oh, well. When is iTRUST going to give us an exit option into tokenized stocks like Tesla? It's a great question. Maybe we should ask them. Let's see. Hey, at iTRUST. When can we start adding tokenized stocks to our iTRUST account? Is that coming in Q4 2025 or Q1 2026? Let's put the pressure on and see what they say. I'll let you know when they say something. That's a good question. All righty. Prince, can you talk about INSP-USDT? I have no idea what that is. Crypto Cops. This guy agrees 100%. Yeah. Rusty's on it. Bodan says, tokenized stocks aren't a huge thing yet. I know Gemini tokenized their stock on Algo, I think. There's a website for all relevant that. Yeah, it hasn't really kind of rolled out. I think if anybody's going to do it right the first time, it's going to be Robinhood. Although, you know, Kraken has that availability for U.S. customers. Just saying, it's out there. Okay. Prince, you say that word one more time, I will ban you myself. INSP-USDT. Hello all. November 8th. Ah, okay. And this guy says, you know, what is it? What pumps the markets? And is it fundamentals? Is it hype? Guy says it's something in between. It's largely hype and community, which is why XRP and ADA are in the top 10. What? But those are not the only factors, or other chains would dominate. Pretty much. There's some other, you know, they're building like crazy, right? On both of those, building like crazy. And midnight is coming, and, you know, we got AI agents in there, and just going to be great. Yeah, Mohammed said, I saw your post today on X saying that today's pump is fake. Care to elaborate? I just talked about that in the very beginning, but I'll say it again. I said it doesn't feel organic. And what I meant by that, and I'll say it again, I I want to go over this the whole thing. Mohammed, you have to watch from the beginning. I'm not going to go over this again. I'm in it for the tech. Yeah, I did like Caspa, tough to swallow. You know, it's a funny thing because a lot of these products are actually building in the background. It's just that the numbers don't go up. And when the numbers don't go up, everybody gets really ticked off. Remember MicroStrategy, how revolutionary that was? I just saw a post today about some guy who said that, yeah, if I would have done into any other stock besides MicroStrategy, I'd be way up by now. And I think MicroStrategy has been hemorrhaging for quite some time. But it did the same thing in 2022, so we'll see if it can bounce back. Jupiter says, hey, Rob, how's the real world mobile phone working? It was working great when I was in El Paso, which I'm actually back for a little bit, but it doesn't work over in Puerto Rico. So that was the problem. So it works in the continental United States, but not outside, I guess. So I wasn't able to use it, but it was working fine here. It works out pretty well. But yeah. Let's see. Beach Slayer says, yeah, I can see that. 50% fundamentals, 50% fundamentals. Why not? Joseph says, I do like number go up. I'm green on the greedy. We all like that. Does Gary live in Puerto Rico? Gary doesn't, but Peter Schiff does. Nice guy. Like gold. Let's see. Of the live stream from work. Hello from Toronto. And then, guys, I think that's it. All right. I think we're good. So enjoy the day for what it is. I'm just telling you, I don't know where we're going in the short term. I expect November to be very, very volatile, especially with not just the government shutdown, but with the opportunity for the United States Supreme Court to shoot down the constitutional right of the executive branch to use tariffs unilaterally. And if they overrule that, then actually it might actually work pretty well, because if they overrule that, then the Trump administration is going to need both sides of Congress to actually approve these tariffs. So maybe you'll see the governments come back together and actually start running. Who knows? Anyhow, that's it for tonight. Everybody, enjoy the rest of your weekend. I don't know if I'll be doing one tomorrow. Got some things going on, but that is it. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. I'll see you guys in the next one. Adios.